Last week we began in Sefer Derech Hashem to talk about the Nevuah. In reality, that chapter covered various forms of revelation, various forms of Giluyim. We discussed the difference between Nevuah, Ruach HaKodesh. We went into other types of Giluyim, including Rabbi Elyahu. There are quite a few forms of revelations. The highest form is Nevuah. Today we're going to continue to talk a little bit more about how Nevuah comes about and the difference between the regular Nevuah of other Nevi'im and Nevuah of Moshe Rabbeinu, who's unique in himself. In Derech, review of Chelek Gimel, he begins to explain the mechanics of Nevuah, how it came about. It was a form of imagination. It came in various degrees. It was something behadraga, something very gradual, that kept on building up more and more. They imagined something, and after the imagination, it became much more of a machshava, much more of a thought, until it became an actual idea that they finally understood what they were seeing. This was important. The mechanics of Nevuah was important because at some point, a Navi had to know what he's seeing is a Nevuah min Hashamayim, or is it just his imagination, or is it perhaps something in Kohot HaTum'ah? Who is giving him this idea, this picture in his mind? Because they were drachim, they were ways to learn Nevuah, just like any other Chokhmah, he explains, any other knowledge, just like you go to college to learn a profession. Nevuah had to be taught, it had to be learned, so they should be able to distinguish that which is truth and that which is false, and to know more than anything else. The makor, the koach, the origin of where this Nevuah is coming from. In the same way that we can be easily impressed when we see an auto or mofet, when we see a trick, a magic trick, or something miraculous out there, we're impressed by it because it's not bound by the laws of nature. What we're concerned about, however, is that this might be done in Koach HaTum'ah. So in some ways, we know these things exist, but there are all sorts of Kohot out there. What interests us is only who is doing this, where is it coming from? Is it Koach HaShed? Is it demon behind this? Is it Tumah? Or is it from the Kedusha? Because we know that there are ways out there to perform almost anything. And the same thing with Nevuah. Because it involved the initial steps, the very beginning, it involved the imagination and the thoughts. The Navi had to know where this was coming from. Until after a while, after he had enough training, he already knew on his own, this is for real. This is, in other words, he could not be mistaken. Hashem would not allow that, because in the end, the Nevuah was a message for others, not just for himself, right? There were various times in Nevuah, some were for the Navi himself, and others were message for the Am, for the nation. The Navi had to go and do a mission. The Navi could not say, no, I'm not interested. I don't want to tell people what I just saw, what I just heard. So it was important that the Navi see, or at least know with clarity, that this is an Nevuah min Hashamayim and not coming from the source, and therefore they went to school. And not everybody was Ra'ui, as I may have explained before. There had to be certain qualifications for the Navi. He had to be a God-fearing man. He had to prove himself, a man of integrity and good nature, good character. As the Rambam brings, he has to be Gibor. Gibor means not muscular, but that he has self-control and discipline. He has to be a Chacham. And after that, he has to have certain training. Obviously, even though it may not be mentioned over here, but it was understood that anybody who would want to be involved in Nevuah would have to somewhat control his appetite too. It would be a very special life for those wanting to be in Nevi'im, who do not indulge themselves in all the pleasures of life, expect to have Nevuah too. And the same is true with Ruach HaKodesh, as I explained in the past, but the rabbis tell us that anybody who is capable of reaching that level, depending on his deeds. If the person's deeds are worthy, then he might be capable of having that divine inspiration. Koshik and the more so, Nevuah, which is on a much higher level, that one would have to prepare himself. And part of the preparation was to train himself to be able to do whatever it takes to get to Nevuah. Those who were in the process of training themselves were called Bnei HaNevi'im, the sons of Nevi'im. Really, they were the students. And as I explained in the past, one of the most important conditions was to be the simcha, to have music next to you. They would carry instruments. So they should always be in a happy, positive mood in order to be able to absorb the Nevuah. At the point that Navi absorbed the Nevuah, the point that he knew that this is a new Nevuah, he felt a complete connection with Borei Olam. The kesher, as though he is connecting with Hashem. And even though he was able to see something, the rabbis remind us, the Torah actually says it, in other words, there was no real picture. With Hashem, whatever there was, he has no image, right? Hashem wants to imagine that he does have an image. But what they were seeing is, as I will explain later on, it's just a impression, something that was being impressed onto their mind based on what they were hearing. Depending on who it was, there were various levels in Nebuah too. Moshe Rabbeinu, as I will explain, was completely different. And depending on their level, they were being impressed by something. They were receiving an impression. That impression was not necessarily a real thing. It was just for them to be able to visualize something. So they had to see something, but that's not the real Torah of Hashem. Hashem has no Torah, He has no image. Alright, he goes on to explain, I think we mentioned this last week, that there were various levels in Nebuah, there were various levels in Nevi'im, just like there is in Chokhmah, in wisdom and in knowledge, that people who are different levels. The same is true with Nevi'im. There were some that saw more, saw with more clarity, there are some that saw less, and the same is true with the Halom, with the dream. As I've explained, there's various types of dreams. I'm talking about the true dreams. The majority of dreams are nonsense. The majority of dreams are part of the imagination, especially the dream of the first part of the night, the first third of the night when you go to sleep. The first couple of hours, many of those dreams have to do with what you thought during the day, experiences that you had, the people that, and it could be people that you saw yesterday too. All of that steers up the imagination in the first part of the night. The second part of the night are the wildest dreams, the ones that don't make any sense whatsoever. They have a little bit to do with the foods you ate, to have nature. There are those who are more melancholy, because of their melancholic nature, because of their continuously depressed, they have certain nightmares. David HaMelech, because he was always combat, he was always doing battle, many years in war. Many of his dreams were nightmares. They were very, very frightening dreams of war, dreams of fighting, dreams of bloodshed, because he was continually involved. Those are the dreams in the middle of the night. The middle of the night can also be dreams through shadim, through demons, who try to infiltrate your mind. So a person has to be careful with his behavior during the day, with his machshavot and his thoughts, with his thoughts. You want to make sure you're protected with the good news on the door. And that is the whole idea of saying Kriyat Shema. As we say in Shir Hashirim, Iktato shel Shlomo, Shishim Giborim Saviv La. Right? Shlomo Melech was concerned at night what he was to do. But they shouldn't come after him. The shadim, he had to have protection. So the Kriyat Shema has a tremendous power in order to, besides the regular ideas behind it, it's also to protect one from bad dreams. But ultimately, the real dreams are the ones that come at the last portion of the night, right before a person wakes up. That is when one is able to see into the future, whatever who wants it to. According to our tradition, everybody sees what is going to happen to them. Everybody's dreams seem to be within it significant, but we forget most of the time what we dreamt. So many, many years later, or many months later, when we see something, we say, where did I see this? I was here before. Of course you were, in the dream. What you're seeing was a dream. That is, as I explained last week, that is what rabbis call a dream. A hadmish nevuah. 1/60th of a prophecy, because it resembles a little bit of prophecy, because you are being told what will be in your life in the future, or in some other member of your family's dream. And sometimes you remember the dream. The reason why they want you to remember it sometimes is because if it's a bad dream, then it's a tzedakah, or you should fast. Otherwise, why would they show you a bad dream just to make you feel bad? Because obviously through a fast, so that's how we can sometimes be mevatel the bad dream. The tradition is to go before the Kohanim. There's a special prayer to say if you had a bad dream. But not all dreams that appear to be bad are bad. So depending on what it is, we have the ability to know beforehand, before something happens, so we should be mevatel in case it's bad. We should have the ability to cancel it, to pray to Hashem that He should be Mohel, they should be forgiving, and not Chas v'Shalom carry out the Gezerah. Okay, there are some Nevi'im that it was possible for them to make mistakes. How could it be possible for a Nevi to make mistakes? It could only be possible in the very beginning when they were learning, and they did not follow the correct instructions. The reason he brings this down is because in case you ever read this Sifrei Nevi'im, you will find all sorts of episodes involving prophets, and at times, there were some incidents where there were mistakes. How could I be making mistakes? It's a nevuah, it's because he wasn't following the rules. So even though the nevuah itself is pure prophecy, real, coming from Hashem, he still has to follow rules. So even though he's a Navi Hashem is on a very high level, a high madriga, he's still human. He still would have to follow the rules. Anybody, the best people, can make mistakes. And that is why it was important to have a teacher, so that he should basically point out pitfalls, what to avoid, that one should not make any mistakes. We also said last week that whenever one would receive prophecy, it does not mean that it was a mission. Prophecy also meant the person was on a certain level, he was on a higher level, that he was able to know certain things that other people did not know. doesn't mean he necessarily has a mission to tell others and to share with them what he saw. Some prophecies were messages or musar for the generation, but not at all times. Many times people would simply go out to the field, play some tunes, make themselves happy, do whatever it was to prepare themselves to absorb the nevuah. And that nevuah would not necessarily be a mission or a message to others. It would just be knowledge and information that you could not get any other way. Not by reading any books, not by going to any. Direct from Borei Olam. Those who would be sending you an email, right? Message. Directly. Nevuah. Something that you would not be able to get it any other way. An example that he brings there, very interesting example of a lack of clarity or room to make a mistake with the nevuah that Yonah had. Remember, most of you probably know the story of Yonah with the whale. What happened with Yonah is that Hashem tells him, V'ninveh ne'epachet. The city of Ninveh is going to be destroyed. What happened in the end? The city was spared. The city was spared, obviously, because of the Teshuvah. And as I may have explained before, a Navi proves himself by predicting the future. What happens if what he claims does not come true? Is he a Navi Sheker? Not necessarily. He's not always considered a false prophet, because depending on what it was. The only time he will be a Navi Sheker is if he promised something good. Because if Hashem says something good will happen, he usually doesn't change his mind. Hashem can change his mind, can be mevatel b'gzera if he promised something bad. The city will be destroyed. The city was not destroyed. Hashem said it will be destroyed. No, that's something bad. It will only be destroyed if the city does not do Teshuvah. Obviously, they was an important city. Hashem sent Yonah, which is very interesting because you rarely see incidents in the Torah where Hashem is asking a Jewish prophet to go give prophecies to the Goyim, tell this non-Jewish town to do Teshuvah. But there were some situations like that. Nineveh was the most famous one. And that is one of the concerns that Yonah had, by the way. Yonah was concerned. He knew the people there. He knew the mentality of the Goyim, that they are serious. They're not stubborn like the Jews. When they hear the Nevuah, oy vavoy, they're going to want to do Teshuvah. And they're going to call him a liar. They're going to make fun of him. But on a deeper level, what he was really concerned with is that this would be an accusation that the Goyim are doing Teshuvah just by hearing the word of the prophet. What about Am Yisrael who has so many prophets and they're not listening? This would be a tremendous accusation against Am Yisrael. So Yonah is concerned for the well-being of the Jewish people. Nevertheless, Hashem says, these are creations of mine. I made them. Look at you know how many people and animals live in this city called Nineveh? I have to have compassion for them too. So you go on my mission. So Hashem did not tell him later on that I'm canceling the decree. Why? Because in the very first prophecy that Hashem gave him, that the city is being destroyed, both ideas can be understood. That is what Yonah did not understand. The word that, the Ninveh Ne'epachet, what does it mean? It could be understood, the city is being destroyed, overturned, or it could also be understood, She'in Ne'epachet, B'tshuvah, that the city of Ninveh Ne'epachet, she's being turned over, yes, in a different way. Hashem's Gezerah, Hashem's Nevuah, had a dual interpretation, depending on how it would work. It could go either way. Yonah did not understand it right away. He came and gave that message. The city is going to be destroyed. It's going to be turned over. Hashem, of course, already prepared in those words. Those words can tolerate a dual meaning, and it will be acceptable. Just an example of how a Navi cannot fully understand and grasp what Hashem is talking about until later. So he was upset. Alright, in the same way that there were various levels of Nebuah, each one according to the level, his own personal level, the words that would come out of the Navi were also different, like depending on which Navi we're talking about. Some Navi'im were able to talk on their own and describe and explain what they saw. And some, like Yeshayahu and Yirmiyahu, the big prophets, the words that they're saying were limited. It's like Hashem put the words in their mouth, what to say. Not to say more, not to say less, because these words are being recorded for the future. We have a tradition that the Gemara, that even the Rishonim means the commentaries of the Gemara up until the 1400s. Divrehem ne'emru beruach HaKodesh. We have a tradition that just about everything that was said beruach HaKodesh. They weren't just making it up. It wasn't just words by anybody. Why is this important for us, this tradition? Because you can't argue with it. If a Rishon said it, if it's written in the Gemara, we don't have the chutzpah. How could we argue with them? They were on a much higher level than us. So much so that in the Gemara you will find an expression that if the first generation before us were regular human beings, we're like hamorim compared to them. And these are chachamim several generations apart. talking about the previous generation. So where are we? If they had called themselves Hamorim, donkeys, what are we compared to them? So how could anybody think of arguing with somebody who was before him? The thing is true even 100 years ago. The further you go back, they were on a much higher level than we are. But our tradition is that in those times, they had, whatever they were saying or writing was Ruach HaKodesh. They would not easily make a mistake. So much so that if you find something that's wrong or doesn't make sense, you could easily attribute it to the printing press. They would just not make a mistake. Those who would not allow them to make a mistake in what they were writing. Some things, obviously, there's differences of opinion. That's okay. But we need to know who the halakha is like. But to make a gross mistake, if they were tzaddikim, as long as that book was written by a tzaddik, a person who had a reputation of being righteous, there would be no mistakes. Words were written by Ruach HaKodesh. The more so the Gemara. Many Gemarot, many Agadot in the Gemara cannot be understood taken at face value. They cannot be read and translated literally. They're full of Kabbalah, Sodot, secrets. And many of them you will find in Masechet Baba Batra, where there's one rabbi describing what he saw. He saw an animal 200 stories high. An example, an animal 200 stories high. What is he talking about? It doesn't really mean that he saw this animal. But there are messages here in these Gemarot. It's like Midrashim. Any of the Midrashim, you cannot take them face value. You cannot translate them literally. There's much more to what they're saying. Because these Midrashim, these Gemarot are being written in the Ruach HaKodesh. So the same thing with Nebuot. Certain Nebuot, the words that were being said, not only the picture that they saw, they were limited, of course, to what they can see according to their level, but the words that are being said by the Navi, everything is in the Ruach HaKodesh. Tehillim, such a beautiful and precious book, full of Divrei Shevach, of song and praise to Hashem, is also on Ruach HaKodesh, it said, word by word. There's no extra word. Just like we know that in the Torah there's not even an extra letter. All these books that we have, even though they don't have the same Kedusha as the Torah, we know it's said the Ruach HaKodesh. Everything that was said and expressed there is the Ruach HaKodesh. We also explained that just like there is Nebuah, there's Kochot HaKedusha, there's Kochot HaTum'ah, the impure forces, they have certain abilities too. One of those abilities is to predict the future. Predicting the future for them is no guarantee that we'll be right. First of all, it's not predicting long term, it's much more short term. They cannot guarantee. It's never accurate 100%. This is all important because one of the conditions, if a Navi was Navi Amet, was to ask him. So there were times in Jewish history where there were Navi Eshek and false prophets, and what they were saying was not based on real prophecies, and Hashem did not speak to them. They were totally not on the level. They were Rasha'im even. They were wicked. They worshipped idols. But any nebuah that they received was not true nebuah, was coming from the Kochot HaTum'ah. That is how they were able to lure or mislead people to think that they have all these powers and all this knowledge, where in fact it was not true knowledge from the Koach HaKedusha, it was from the Kochot HaTum'ah. Alright, I think we'll go on to the next chapter, which is the difference between Moshe and all the other prophets. Maybe I should read it from the Rambam. The Rambam has a good description. It says all the limitations that we talked about, the mechanics and how prophets were able to see prophecy, those were only for regular Nevi'im, except for Moshe Rabbeinu, who is the teacher of all prophets. And what is the difference between the Nebuah of Moshe to the rest of the prophets? I'm going to read it from the words of the Rambam. Shekol HaNevi'im v'chalom u'v'mar'eh. All prophets, how were they able to see their prophecy? It was through some sort of vision or a dream. And even if they were awake in the middle of the day, they would have to lie down and receive their nebuah through a vision, through a dream. Moshe Rabbeinu bitnabeh v'u'er ve'omed. Moshe Rabbeinu would be awake, fully conscious, and receive the prophecy. Shene'emar u'bevo Moshe l'oel moed ledaber ito b'shma kol medaber elav. In other words, he was fully awake. He was in the psukim. He was not asleep. Kol hanevi'im al yedei malach. All the prophets had the nebuah come through a malach, through a messenger. That because of that, what they saw was the mashal v'chida. It was through a riddle. It wasn't a clear picture. Moshe Rabbeinu was lo al yedei malach. Shene'emar pe el pe adaber bo. Moshe Rabbeinu's prophecy was directly from Hashem, through no messenger. Like it says also, panim el panim, face to face, like one would be speaking to his friend. V'ne'emar punat Hashem yabit. In other words, there was no mashal, no chida, no riddle. Ro'eh adavar al buryo. He was able to see with clarity, and with not a mashal, what Hashem wanted him to see. Kol nevi'im yere'im v'nibhalim u'mitmogigim. All the prophets, if they would be awake, as soon as the prophecy would arrive, they would start trembling. It would appear like a seizure. They would be overcome with this tremendous shefa, holy, this influence, inspiration that would come down. It would be overwhelmed by it. Moshe Rabbeinu Elyahu Kin. Kasher yidaber ish el re'eu. It would just like be talking to your friend. Just like you're not, you're not afraid to hear the words of your friend. Same thing with Moshe Rabbeinu. He was able to hear the nevuah and not become, shaken by it. All the prophets could not have prophecy at all time, whenever they would want to. Moshe Rabbeinu is not so. Anytime Moshe wanted, he would enter the Ohem Moed, he would receive the nevuah, and he would not have to prepare himself like everybody else. Moshe Rabbeinu, therefore, because of his level, had to separate himself from his wife, whereas all the other prophets could stay married, be together with their wives. Nevertheless, as we explained, Moshe Rabbeinu was not believed because of the otot shasa, because of all the miracles that he performed, because anybody who just trusts and relies on miracles is incomplete. The reason why it's incomplete, because there's always a chance that those miracles will perform to the Tumah. So that is where the Torah reminds us that the way we were convinced that what we saw and what experienced was real was not through the miracles that Moshe performed. It was that everything came true as he said. It came out of Egypt, and we on our own heard the voice of Hashem. So the fact that we had a Matan Torah, where we heard it from Hashem directly, that is what proved it to us. That is what convinced us. It wasn't that Moshe took out his staff, proved it to us that he can make it into a snake. All of these things were Ototim of King to make a point. They all had a reason why he did what he did. The fact that Korach v'Adaton nible'u b'adamah, that they were swallowed up by the ground, was needed to happen too. But it wasn't because of that we needed to believe in him. We believed and we accepted the Torah because we experienced firsthand, we were witnesses, Matan Torah and Har Sinai, that Hashem spoke to us directly. The fact that he brought us down man, that also did not prove that Moshe made the Torah. We had other ways to know that. That needed to be, for whatever reason, HaKadosh Baruch Hu was giving us bread in Hashemayim. Hashem was teaching us another lesson. It had nothing to do with proving the Nevuah of Moshe. The same thing he says when the Egyptians drowned, or when he split the sea. That was not intended to prove. Even though it says, Vayaminu Hashem Moshe Avdo at that point, it was not a complete Umunah until Matan Torah and Har Sinai. That is when it became complete. We saw and heard for ourselves that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one giving us the Torah. That Moshe did not make up the stories. And therefore he reminds us that if anybody comes in the future, another prophet that does all sorts of Ototim Moftim, and tries to deny the Nevuah of Moshe, we don't listen to him. Because it's very possible that what he's doing, what he's performing is through Kishuv. And the Nevuah of Moshe was not done, or did not convince us through the Kishuv. We heard it, and we saw it. That is why the Torah warns us, if you ever do see Ototim Moftim and miracles being performed by human beings, don't be impressed. And don't be misled, because what we have will never change. And we were witnesses. And anybody that comes and tells you otherwise cannot compare to having a personal experience. Alright, he explains a little bit further just the difference between Moshe Rabbeinu and all the other Nevi'im. Like all the Nevi'im, what they saw was like looking at a mirror. They never saw anything directly. And even what they saw, even though it was through a mirror, in other words, what's a mirror? You're not seeing the thing directly, you're seeing a reflection, right, on the mirror. Something that's somewhere else. So that's all prophecies are similar. They don't ever see something directly. They see it through a reflection. And it's never clear. It's like a blurry mirror. Moshe, even though he also saw somewhat through a mirror, his mirror was clear and was not blurry. Even though we said Moshe Rabbeinu was the teacher of all prophets and he was on a higher level than everybody else and he saw with more clarity, even Moshe Rabbeinu was limited. Rabbis tell us anybody who's basar vadam, anybody who's a human being, flesh and blood, has certain limitations. It is not possible for us to grasp and understand everything while we are alive as mortals. Only after a person departs from the world is he able to see and understand much more. Because the mind is limited, it's not capable. And our tradition says that right before a person dies, he's able to see the Shekhinah. A couple minutes before, as long as he has enough zechuyot, he's able to experience the Shekhinah. Not only does he experience the Shekhinah, if you were ever close to somebody on his deathbed, even the Gemara brings down stories where one of the rabbis said right before he passed away, prepare a chair for this prophet, they're all coming to accompany me. So right before a person dies, he's able to see things that he was not able to see. He actually has a reshut. They allow it. Not only that, you see the Malach HaMavet too. Many people I know, I've heard it, but they was able to say, okay, he's come to get me now. Basically, they meant the Malach HaMavet, they see him. They somehow know it's him. All of these images, all of these impressions, one is able to see before he passes away. But the greatest one of all, of course, is the Shekhinah. One is Zoche, somehow is able to see something of the Shekhinah right before he departs from this world. So while one is alive, en brira. In other words, we have no way out of it. We are limited. And even Moshe Rabbeinu, but because he's a human being, could not. And Hashem says, when he asked, Arini not kivodecha, I'd like to see more. Hashem said, no way. You cannot see while you are high, while you are alive. You cannot see everything that is see. Nevertheless, Moshe Rabbeinu saw a lot more than most people. And he understood a lot more. And that is why he reached the level that he reached. Alright. Just to give you a few examples of what Moshe Rabbeinu saw and what Moshe Rabbeinu knew. The Gemara says that Moshe Rabbeinu was not a zoologist. He wasn't how was he able to make a statement in the Torah that there are only 4 animals that have one of the simanim of kashrut and not the other? There are 2 simanim for kashrut. There are additional ones, the 2 main ones. A kosher animal chews its cud and has split hooves, right? Any animal that does not have those 2 simanim is not kosher, cannot eat. Moshe Rabbeinu says in the Torah that there are 4 animals that have one, not the other. The gamal, the arnevet, and the shafan, the camel, some say the khan, and the rabbit, they chew their cud, they don't have split hooves. The hazir has split hooves, but doesn't chew his cud. So what is Moshe Rabbeinu saying? That there's only 4 in the entire world that have one siman, not the other. Either an animal has the 2 simanim, or it has no simanim. There are 4 that have one siman. And they are these animals. So at the turn of the century, the English wanted to disprove the Torah, because the Gemara says, Zeh mar'esha Torah min hashamayim. This shows that Torah is in hashamayim. That was what Moshe was saying. How could he have known? Did he travel all over the world? Was he a zoologist? In other words, was he an expert? Was he a hunter? The Gemara says, no way. What was given to him was min hashamayim. Torah min hashamayim. So they tried to disprove the Torah, these English. They tried to find a 5th animal that had one siman, and they never did, and they never will. That the Torah min hashamayim, Hashem created the world. He knows what animals He created. And there's only 4 that have one siman, and there's no more. That's it, only 4. So Moshe Rabbeinu was able to know when he's receiving the Torah, when he went up to the mountain, he was inspired with a tremendous amount of knowledge, and he knew what most human beings did not know. Shlomo Melech too, in a sense, who gave him a gift, he gave him a tremendous amount of chokhmah, tremendous amount of knowledge. And there were rabbis who were very, very knowledgeable in many, many areas. Still, all of these things are called chokhmot. They're called wisdom, they're called knowledge that somehow, if you teach yourself, if you have the right faculties for it, the right skills, I guess, they can be learned. There were certain things that one cannot learn unless Hashem gave him that inspiration. Like with Betzalel. Betzalel was the one that was in charge of building the Mishkan. It required a tremendous amount of detail. Where did he learn? I know some people are by nature very talented. You just know how to fix almost anything. That's true. Betzalel, of course, was that kind of an individual. Nevertheless, to build the Mishkan required a tremendous amount of skill and talent, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave him that chokhmah in his mind, so that he should be able to teach and train others too what to do. Moshe Rabbeinu was also skilled, but obviously he didn't have to build the Mishkan, and he had a difficult time understanding how to make the menorah. For whatever reason, the menorah had to be made niksha. Niksha was from one piece of gold, and it also had a tremendous amount of detail. Hashem had to show him a picture. It wasn't enough to describe it and say it in words. Hashem actually give him a picture of what it looks like, so he should be able to understand how it needs to be done, how it has to be. So there is a lot of chokhmah in the Gemara. You will find that the Chachamim knew a tremendous amount of things that they're only discovering today. You look at the Zohar, which was also written as Yeruch HaKodesh. There's a tremendous amount of chokhmah, and yet a tremendous amount of knowledge. For example, that the world is round, much before the Goyim knew that the world was round. So a lot of the information about all areas and all aspects of life, whether it's about human anatomy, whether it's about astrology and astronomy, whether it's any other sciences, you will find in the Gemara, in the Zohar, and the Midrashim a tremendous amount of chokhmah. Where do they know this from? Either through Ruach HaKodesh, either through Nevuah, or by Masoret, by tradition that came down. One of the Masoret, one of the traditions that we had, something called Halakha Moshe Sinai Torah Shebal Peh. Because what we have in the Torah is Torah Shebechtav, the written word. All the details of the Torah, the mitzvot, How to make tefillin. The Torah says put on tefillin. How do I know it's black, it's square, and what you put inside? The Torah doesn't say that. All it says is all of that was handed over to Moshe Rabbeinu. And Moshe Rabbeinu taught it to the Zekenim, to all of Am Yisrael. And from then on until today, we follow the same instructions on how to make tefillin. Go to Me'ah She'arim today, and you'll see that they follow the same instructions, they use the same chemicals, more or less, the same process of making tefillin. The Torah doesn't say that. Where do we have it? We have it in the Masorah, in the tradition that was given over to who? To Moshe Rabbeinu first. Hashem gave him all that information, and there's a tremendous amount of information. We have 613 commandments, but you know how many details there are on how to perform these commandments? It's not written. It would not be in the Torah. It's all in the Gemarot and the Mishnayot and the Midrashim. All of these halachot, all of the details, Moshe Rabbeinu was taught, absorbed, according to our tradition, he even absorbed what would be eventually analyzed and studied by future Talmidim, by future students. Moshe Rabbeinu saw all of this. So he's receiving a tremendous amount of Chokhmah and Yeda that nobody else received. That is why he was able to know what he knew. He still had problems with the people. In other words, just because he was a special person does not mean that everybody would listen to what he has to say. Because of politics and because of other reasons, he still had to deal with a very stubborn people, a very stubborn nation. But there's no doubt that he was the greatest prophet of all. That is why we have a saying, Moshe, ad Moshe, lo haya ke Moshe. Who is that referring to? Referring to Moshe Rabbeinu and the Rambam, whose name was also Moshe. From Moshe to Moshe, there was nobody ever that came that was like Moshe. In other words, that was as great as Moshe Rabbeinu. There was never such a prophet. He was unique in the kesher, in the special connection that he had with Borei Olam, and in his access. He was able to access a lot of information that nobody else would. The Chol Be'eti Ne'emanhu, the Pasuk says, he's welcome in my house. The Chol Be'eti, he can walk around, and he can, on his own, understand what most humans could not understand. But nevertheless, Moshe being human was still limited in how much he could know. One of the things that I'll be explaining next Wednesday about the Yeda of Moshe concerned his ability to know people. Parshat Yitro, it says, Yitro tells Moshe that you need to choose special people to be judges. You can't do the work yourself, right? It's too much for one person. You have to appoint and delegate the job to several people. So how is he going to go about choosing the right people? What kind of people is he told to choose? God-fearing, sonei batzah, people that don't like money. In other words, you should be able to bribe them. Intelligent people. What is he going to give them an exam? How do you test somebody who's an honest person? No, a God-fearing person. How do you know this? So anybody, of course, that is on a very high level is able to read the person's forehead. He's able to see all sorts of things. There's two chokhmot. There's two knowledges that one can get to know a person. One is called chokhmat ha-parsuf, and one is called chokhmat hayad, or chokhmat ha-seftuti. One is called the knowledge of the face, as some call it today in English, physiognomy, and one is called palmistry, or the knowledge of being able to read the lines in one's hand. If one knows how to read the lines in one's hand, or one who knows how to read the details of one's face, you can tell everything there is to know about the person. When I say everything, I mean two things, basically. A person is divided into two parts: his nature and character, personality, and all the events that will unfold in his life. All of that is in a person's hand. If you know how to read the hand, if you're able to figure out what the lines say, and the lines are very, very, very clear from the moment the baby comes out, the lines are there already. And if you know how to read it, you can tell how long he will live approximately, how many children he will have, at what age he will get married, what his character will be like, how many lawsuits he will have, how many lawsuits he will win, how much trouble he will have, who will give him the trouble, how many scandals he will have, right? Everything you can tell from the hand. And I just gave you a small description. There's a tremendous amount of information in the hand. So the Zohar says, on the words of Vatat Hezeh on Parshat Yitro, that Moshe Rabbeinu is being told how to choose people through this chokhmah. Chokhmat ha-parsuf and chokhmat ha-yad. The Ari HaKadosh, and many other Mekubalim who are on a tremendous high level, were able to look at the chokhmat ha-parsuf. They didn't have to look at the hand. Just by looking at somebody's forehead, they were able to tell a lot of things. That is through Ruach HaKodesh. And so Zohar says the same thing is true with palmistry. Even though palmistry is a science, it's a true science, and it's an incredible, accurate science. Nevertheless, there's various levels in it. There's one level which is called Al Pi HaTeva, through nature, which people could learn. There's a second level, which is Al-Fi Kabbalah, which contains secrets of Al-Fi Kabbalah. And there's a third and the highest level of all is Al-Fi Ruach HaKodesh. In other words, a person who has Ruach HaKodesh is able to see more layers or more levels that there are in the hand. For example, in the hand, through Teva, you could see basic things. A person's going to get sick at the age of 65. He's going to be sick because of his kidney. And, or he's going to have eye trouble at a certain age. He's going to be in prison for several years. All of this you could see in the hand if you know what you're looking for. According to the Ruach HaKodesh, however, you might be able to see who this man was in a previous reincarnation, in a previous Gilgul. You see, there's various levels of Chokhmah in the same thing, depending how that information comes to you. So Matata Hazem Moshe is being told, you want to know how to choose? You want to make sure you have a good partner? How do you know who you're doing business with? How do you know who to hire? What kind of an employee? That he's not going to be a thief. How do you know who to marry? Maybe this wife or husband, I have to be fair to the woman, is going to be a witch or Rasha Merusha, right? How do you know these things? Obviously, we have Bitachon Hashem. We have to pray hard, right? But if you do the tricks, maybe you can find out. You can figure out. You can look at the forehead. She might think you're crazy if you're looking at her forehead, right? But in case you know something, oh, yeah. Anyway, ask for a picture. Anyway, so Moshe Rabbeinu was able to, through these chokhmot and many other chokhmot, know a tremendous deal about human beings, about human nature. How are we supposed to know these things today? There are chokhmot today too. There is a certain amount of knowledge that people know them. They can know certain things too. As I explained last week, there are various ways that we can ask questions from Hashem too. So even though we're not on the level as previous generations were, we still have certain methods of acquiring certain information. However, what I want to talk about now, the last point I want to mention, something unique called Or Sheganaz HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, He created light. But besides the light that we know today that exists, the regular light, the difference between day and night is light. There's another light, Sheganaz. HaKadosh Baruch Hu saw that this special light is not worthy, says the Reshaim would not be worthy of using it. Ganaz, HaKadosh Baruch Hu put it away, Le'atid Lavo. For future generations, right before Mashiach comes, they will enjoy and benefit from that light. But the Zohar says, this special light, if one would have it, one would be able to see the Sofa Olam V'Asofo. You would just be able to see tremendous things from one end of the world to the other end. This, if you would be able to use this light, you could know so much about people, about the world, about the future, whatever it is. It's a very special light. Where is this light today? Even though it says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu ganaz oto, He put it away, He also put a little bit of it into the Torah. So chelek me'aora ze nignaz b'toch haTorah atzma, within the Torah itself. Therefore, if a person mekadesh atzma, a person sanctifies himself, and he learns Torah, he's able through the Torah to understand all sorts of things. That is why there are rabbis, at least in the past, today possibly too. If you would go and ask them a question, Rabbi, what should I do? I had this girl, that I'm interested in, I like her, and she likes me, or I had this business opportunity that I'm considering. What should I do? Can you give me advice? Is this a good idea or not? The rabbi would first take out a chumash, start learning. And after he learned a pasuk, a chapter, or whatever, then he would give an answer. Why? Because he wanted to be focused on this Torah, on the light. That through the Torah, Kadosh Baruch Hu should be mashpia on him, the right advice to give to this person. As I explained Wednesday, that Kadosh Baruch Hu shatal tzadikim v'chol dol vador. Kadosh Baruch Hu planted tzadikim in every generation, so we should turn to them and not to psychics. When we have questions, major questions, questions come up. This guy wants to go into business with me. Should I become his partner or not? You know how many people have made terrible mistakes, that they wish they wouldn't have gone into partnership with crook, right? Or with some other situation. How are you supposed to know? Right? Of course, you should do your homework as best as possible, and you should have Bitachon Hashem. But if you're lucky and you have a big tzaddik to turn to, that's better. Like this, you avoid mistakes, unnecessary mistakes. Who needs this trouble, right? No. Hashem had to tell Abraham Avinu, listen to Sarah. He was in a dilemma. Ishmael is a troublemaker, but they're both children. What should he do? Listen to Sarah. She's a bigger neviah than you are. She knows what she's talking about. She's able to see certain things. And women do have a binah yetera, by the way. They do have a stronger intuition. They do know certain things. You can trust them with certain things. Not with everything, but with certain things you can turn to them. As the rabbis tell us, if your wife is short, 4'6", bow down and listen to what she has to say, because she might have some good advice for you. But it all depends what it is. When it comes to guests, don't take her advice. Because the women don't want to have guests. They don't want to work hard, right? And they need advance notice. Now that's normal. So just say, I brought a guest, and always make extra food. Certain things you don't want to consult because they may have different ideas, but in certain other areas, they have a very strong intuition, binayat terach. They have a very strong, better understanding, and they're very, very good in recognizing a guest. This guy, in recognizing a guest, not in inviting him. Once the guest has arrived, you know what? This guy, I don't want to see his face anymore. He's not trustworthy. How do you know you never met him before? I can just smell it. I can just see it. And you know what? You might be right. They have a better understanding in certain areas. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave a certain amount of chokhmah, a certain amount of binayat to women, in the same way that he has given Chachamim the ability to draw chokhmah from the Torah, from this light. Therefore, it pays to go to tzaddikim. It pays to ask your wife too, of course, to consult with her too. But for major issues, major decision in one's life, go to a tzaddik. HaKadosh Baruch Hu shatam otam b'chol dor v'dor for a reason. He's kind to them, so we should turn to them and not turn to the goyim. So Hashem, I'll be speaking about this next Wednesday when we speak about the Ikar HaShvi'i, the seventh principle, the 13th principle of our Emunah, the significance of Nebuat Moshe. What we just did now is describe a little bit the difference between his Nebuah, his level of prophecy, and the prophecy of the rest of the Nevi'im. The significance of this prophecy, however, is very important. That we have to accept it, that what Moshe gave us is a myth. It's true, a lot depends on him. Moshe, right before he died, he wrote 13 Sifrei Torah in one day. How did he have that koach? What did he think? I can't even write one page in one day. Right? He wrote 13 Sifrei Torah completed. Obviously there was a Yad Hashem. He had assistance from heaven. So everything that he did, everything that he wrote, everything was perfect and correct and accurate. That is part of our emunah. We have to accept it. Otherwise somebody can come and say, who? Moshe? So, I can also have an opinion. People try to compare themselves to previous generations. We must remember that there's no way to compare. The previous generations were much greater than us, and Moshe was greater than everybody else, especially when it comes to the Nebuah. So that's an important part of our emunah, part of our faith, is to believe that whatever Moshe gave to us was correct and true, and that the Torah that he wrote was dictated to him by our HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Otherwise, how does Moshe Rabbeinu know all the details of Adam Chava? He wasn't around then. The Mabul, many years before him. Where does he know all this information? He's writing the Torah, he's writing the whole history of mankind, human civilization. Before he was born, where does he know this from? There weren't written records. Everything with Ruach HaKodesh. But Moshe, everything that he wrote down, all the mitzvot, word for word, Hakol emet, Hakol mufi hagvura, everything was pure from Kadosh Baruch Hu. Now you want to hear the good news? Even though we finished with Nevuah, and explaining a little bit of how Nevuah works, we unfortunately don't have Nevuah, except for the Nevuah Ketana, a little bit of what I was giving to children as I explained last week. Other than that, we don't really have Nevi'im. We have Ruach HaKodesh, we have other methods, but the good news is that when Mashiach comes, the Nevuah will come back. The Nevuah will come back, and at that point, everybody who will still be around, will be worthy, will be able to absorb this Nevuah. And there will be a tremendous increase in the amount of knowledge. As the Pasuk says, Kamayim layam nechasim, as the vast ocean, so much chokhmah, so much yeda, so much information. That is why they're calling this time the information age. They don't even realize themselves what they're saying. Yes, this is nothing compared to what we will be seeing soon. A tremendous amount of revelation will come about when Mashiach comes very soon.